So in this section, we're going to look at using the mobile phone camera to take still pictures as part of our journalistic package. Now, it's important to note there is a whole chapter on photography which will give you far more information, but I want to just cover some of the basics and outline where mobile phones may differ slightly. We start here with a picture from the Himalayas taken with the mobile phone. This was with an iPhone 4, so quite an early version as compared to now of potential megapixel size images. The image you can see is starting to break up a little bit. It was taken very early morning, but actually in black and white it works okay. And this is one of the tricks that we can apply because we're getting this kind of pixelation as a result, or noise as they call it in digital terms, as a result of the low light. When we turn it into black and white, it feels like grain and therefore a little bit more pleasing to the eye. I'm going to go through a few more pictures and sort of show you how they came about. This image here again is taken in early morning light, and you can see the noise really starting to make a little bit of a problem for us with the image. Beautiful sunrise, but still too dark for the small chip within the camera to cope with. Now we've got a little bit more light, and you can see it's starting to work a lot better here in this particular photograph. And then here, as the light comes up, we can see that the mobile phone starts to cope very well. So the key lesson here is that when you have good light, strong light, the mobile phone is fine, and as well, particularly if you want to have everything in focus like this landscape. It also works really well when you have a clean background. As I said, the problem is with everything in focus, but here we've got a really nice portrait of a young girl set against a very solid color on the background in the door that she's leaning against. This makes this image very strong and powerful. We have the light on her coming off from the doorway and into, and we have a simple background. So trying to keep things really simple can work well, again, if you have a simple background and plenty of light. I want to tell the story of this image because this image is going to come up a few times in the whole series, or certainly the mobile series. It's one of my favorite images from this particular assignment. And I want to go through how that happened, and then I'm going to talk about some others. So images like this don't normally happen in isolation. I'm going to go through the whole sequence here. So this was the first image. I arrive at the school. Ian has gone inside and is starting to talk to the kids, and they're starting to put on a little bit of show. I've shot that, I've come outside, I'm trying to look for something a little bit different, and I see these people leaning up against this wired window. And here you see the first image, and then the second image is they notice me, the other girl turns around, you can see now they're smiling in the third image, and now I get close. I move in a bit closer, she's looking away, I wait, and then she looks at me. Now the problem with this image, this is a much sharper image than this one. We've got a little bit of blur in this, probably due to camera shake, is that I can help do a couple of things. I can eliminate the background by making it a little bit more contrasty. The background, we can see the young kids sitting in the background there. And by turning it to black and white, you can see it really kind of brings it out. Now this is simply done in an edit package that you can go into in the next section, where I'm going to talk a little bit about how to do that. But by just playing around with a few levels, brightness and contrast, I can really isolate this look that comes straight out of her, make it much simpler and plainer, and the slightly out of focus part doesn't matter quite so much. Okay, and then again, this image again with inside, low light, a little bit of movement in it. Didn't happen in isolation, it was a series. I saw this girl, I thought she might make an interesting image. She had really beautiful eyes and a little bit of makeup on her face. And so I just followed her 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can see that I'm just staying on that image, knowing that it might happen. Now there's movement here. And the thing what happens is when you're dealing with a mobile phone in low light, you're always going to be subject to movement. The aperture just can't, or the chip can't cope with the amount of light that you're dealing with. And the best way to do it is just to take lots of pictures and hope one comes up. Try and keep the camera as steady as possible. And this was the final image. And as you see, there's a little bit of movement, but her eyes and her nose are really nice and sharp. And it really kind of grasps the attention of the people who are looking at it. I've also here put it into this kind of Polaroid, this square shape, which also helps take out some of the distractions from around it. And then finally, this other image. These are 3 of my favorite images from the trip. And again, this doesn't happen in isolation. Now here we can see the background is really clearly in focus. Again, a big problem that we have with a mobile phone. But it came from a series of images. Didn't happen in isolation. These were a group of children playing a game with stones on the ground while they were waiting for the water to fill up their various vessels with water. So here you see that I'm working around the subject. I'm moving around. I see the girl in the middle with the green cloth over her and the hat, and I kind of like that. And again, I'm concentrating on her and I'm trying to frame her within her other friends playing the game. Here I go again and again. You see how many images I take? Again, now I'm getting close, close again. She's laughing, playing with her, talking to her. And now I'm changing my angle. I'm trying to get a completely different angle, moving around, working the subject, knowing that I'm going to get a good picture out of this, but I just need to spend time and be patient. Again, one more before we get to the final image, which was the one that I chose. So good images often come with work. You can't just turn up, take one photograph, walk away and expect it to be great. It normally comes as a whole series. And finally, also, I just want to talk about the mobile phone's limitations. And sometimes you get images like this and you think, well, you know, this guy had a really nice hairstyle and I wanted to shoot a picture of him and he was quite happy to pose for me. But when I look at it on the phone and then I look at it back on my computer, you can see it's overexposed. We're shooting too much into the light and it doesn't really grab my attention. But you shouldn't give up at that. You shouldn't just pass them on. You should try and work them a little bit. Now you can see here in black and white, that image becomes much stronger. And again, if I isolate it in that Polaroid square format, again, we can really sort of hammer in and concentrate on that person, although the person in the background is also in focus. Okay, and then here's just a few extra images from the trip. This is the great thing about the mobile phone, is that it's always in your pocket. It's great. It's so easy just to whip it out and take a photograph whenever you come up against good moments, as you will do if you're traveling or you're working in interesting, visually interesting environments. So here's a girl as I was traveling towards Baglam. We stopped off by a river and there was a few people playing and she was taking a picture with her mobile phone. This is just a butterfly. Again, the amazing abilities of the mobile phone to do close-up photography, as long as you can persuade the butterfly to stay there long enough. And this is a moth that was on the floor in one of my lodges I was staying in, and I could get in really close and get the details. Don't forget to get very close. These mobiles are good at macro photography, one of the great things about the small chip. And then just other great moments. Again, this was on the road as I stopped for a break and saw these kids playing in a bit of a land near the road, and could just jump in and quickly take a snap. And some majestic landscapes. And again, the mobile phone copes incredibly well with these. A little bit of work post-production, but pretty well what the phone captures. Sunrise that was, and then one final landscape. So overall, just try to keep things simple with the mobile phone. Don't try and expect it to deliver the same sort of results and the same sort of situations that a DSLR could cope with. So try and keep good light, try and keep everything, or you know that everything's going to be in focus, just try and keep simple backgrounds or make sure that you want everything to be clear and sharp. And don't give up. If sometimes the image doesn't look great on the phone, have a go, play around with it back on the computer or on the phone and see if you can just bring out something a little bit more.